Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing the correction of our previous project, which is the password generator. And the purpose of this project is to show you guys how to break down a problem into smaller pieces and then solve them one by one. So let's just get straight to the point. According to the requirements, our main goal is to take an input from the user regarding how many letters, symbols and numbers they want, and we need to generate a highly secure random password. So let's just move straight to the point. If you look at the terminal, we have already set up the starter code, whereby we have 3 slices which contain all possible letters, numbers and symbols. So the first step that I'm going to do is that I need to break this problem down into smaller pieces, and the first thing is just to declare my 3 variables. And the purpose of these 3 variables is that I'm going to be storing whatever the user input. I'm going to be storing it inside the 3 variables. So I'm just going to create a 3 variables. I'm going to call it a variable number of letters, then the number of symbols, then the number of numbers, and I'm going to give all the 3 the data type of integer. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is that I'm going to use the fmt.println to ask the user the questions by the prompt. So, and after that I'm going to use my fmt.scan to scan the user input, to capture the user input, and I'm going to store it inside these variables that I just created. So I'm just going to come here and copy all these things. So I'm going to copy all this. I'm going to start, just copy. Okay, I just drag it like that. So I'm just going to say that fmt.println. So I'm going to use that. fmt.println again. I'm going to do that. Then fmt.println again. I'm going to do that. So let me just format it correctly. Now we have the 3 questions. So the next thing is to use the fmt.scan in order for us to collect the data, to capture the data. So fmt.scan, I'm going to put the and numbers of words, of letters, and I'm just going to copy this, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and this time around I'm going to use number of words, of symbols, then Ctrl V, and the last one is the numbers of numbers. Good. Now that we have set up this, the next thing is that now that we actually know exactly how many each character the user wants, so we need a place whereby we can build our password. So for us to do that, because after building the password, at least we need a variable where we can save it to. So I'm going to create an empty string, which is actually called password. So it's just like an empty string, just like an empty bucket, and that is exactly the place where we are going to be dropping our characters one by one. So I'm just going to create it. I'm going to call it a variable. I'm going to call it password. I'm going to assign the data type of string to it. So after doing this, the next thing is that the question actually says that the next thing is that we are going to tackle the letters. So for us to tackle this letter, we need to create a for loop that runs exactly the number of times the user requested for the letters. So for me to do that, I'm going to create a for loop here. I'm going to call it for, and I'm going to use the for I loop for I loop in the range of what? Of the numbers of letters, which is the actual numbers of time the user wants the letters to run. Let's just use that. I'm just going to say numbers of letters. Now that I've created my for loop, the next thing is that inside this loop we need to grab a random numbers. A random letter. We need to grab a random letter because, for example, now if the user actually wants 5 letters, so that means I have to grab a random letter 5 times. So inside the loop we need to grab a random letter. So we are going to do this by generating a random number using the rand.int. Now this is what I'm going to say. I'm just going to say that I need to grab a random number, so I can call it letters. I can call it picked. I can call it picked letter. So I'm just going to call it pick letter, and I'm going to use my int dot rand dot int n, that is integer for number. So now the next thing is that I'm going to, inside this parenthesis, I'm going to check the length of the letters. Notice I'm going to use the length of the letters. That is, I'm going to say that the length of the letters. So if you actually look at this place, you will notice that I actually use the length of the letters, which is these letters that we have here, the slides. So I actually use this to ensure that we pick a random number between 0 till 51. Because if you check this alphabet, you can see we have from A, B, C, all small letter A till capital letter A till Z. So for us to give everyone an equal chance of being selected, so I have to include it inside the random number. So which means I'm covering the whole alphabet. So when we use the random.index to pull a specific letter out of our slice and we add it to our password, so after that we just have to use the random.index to pull a specific letter out of our slice, and then we are going to add it to our password string using the normal plus equal sign operators. So this is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to come here. Since we already pick a random number, we can actually check it out if you want. For example, now I can just test it for you. I can say that's fmt.print line. So I'm just going to print a random, which is the pick letter. Although we are going to have an error here, so I have to escape this I. So use this equal to I because I don't need this I. So I'm just going to escape it. So if I say that fmt.print line pick letter, so it's going to actually show a number within the range of 0 till 51. So if I run this code now, although we might have some error, let me just run it. It might say that we have something that we did not use. We did not use numbers, symbols, and letters. So I will just comment this out for now for us to check it. So let's rerun this code again. Password not use. I'm just going to comment the password also. And okay, I've just removed these letters. So I'm going to run the code again. So now, how many letters? If I say that I want 3 letters and I run it, so let me just pick random. You can see that we have 12, 28, and 48, which means the first time that this loop runs, our pick letter, the random.int n, it actually picked the index, it picked 12 out of from 0 to 51, it picked 12. The second time that it run, it picked 28. Then the last time it picked what? It picked 48, which is exactly what we want. Now that we know that this random number is actually picking, is actually picking a number randomly, starting from 0 till what, till 58 and till 51. So we can use that to select a letters from these strings, from this slice of string that we have here. So I'm just going to say that instead of just printing the pick letter, I'm going to, if I add letters and I put everything inside the bracket, so if I run this now, which means I'm using the index to pick the letters in the index of what, in the index of the pick letter. So if I run this now, how many letters? Let's just pick only 2 this time around. 1, 2. You can see we have DJ. We have the capital letter D and capital letter J. Can you see that? Now, since we already know how we can pick this letter, we can definitely move to the next level, the next stage, which is storing the letter. So instead of printing it out, we are not going to be printing. I'm just going to delete. I'm going to delete all this. So instead of picking the letter, I'm just going to assign it to a variable called the password. So I'm just going to assign it here, call it password, and the password is equal to plus equal to letters picked letter. Now this definitely means that once this code run, is going to, instead of printing it out, is going to be saving it inside our what, inside our password. So after that, I can just print it out here, fmt dot print line, and I want to print the what, I want to print the password, So if I run this now, let me run it. How many letters? I want 3. So you can see we have JPO, which means we definitely have this saved inside the password variable. So now that we have now that we have successfully solved the problem for the letters, so it means that we can just repeat the same thing for the symbols and the numbers, because they are the same thing, which means we are just going to repeat the same exact the same logic. We are going to repeat the same logic. So we are going to write the loop for the number of symbol, but this time we are going to generate a random index based on the length of that symbol and based on the slice, and we are going to add the symbol to the same variable, which is the same password variable. So let's do it. So I'm just going to come here, I'm going to copy, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So instead of numbers of letter, I'm going to use number of symbols, and I'm going to paste again. Instead of numbers of letters, I'm going to use number of what? Number of numbers. So after that, I'm going to change the value here. Instead of length of letters, this time around we want it to be between the lengths of the numbers. So I'm going to uncomment these numbers, and I'm going to use length of what? Length of numbers, and the last one is the symbol. I'm going to uncomment this, and I'm going to use the length of what? The length of symbols, So now, and I'm also going to change it. Okay, I've already changed it here. So that's just it. So I believed I have solved the problem now, so we can just run the code again to try it. So this time around we have how many letters? We have 4. How many symbols? We have 3. How many numbers? 2. Now if you check it, oh sorry, I made a mistake here. I did not change the variables where we are picking the actual letters from. So I need to change these variables. So the first one, because we are using the numbers of letters, so we are definitely picking from the slice of letters. Now we are dealing with symbols, so we need to pick from the slice of symbol. So I'm just going to change it to symbols. I'm going to use the symbols, and here instead of letters I'm going to be using the numbers. So I believe we have solved the problem. So now we can just run the code again. how many letters? I want 3, I want 2, I want 3. So we have, you can see now we have COW, which stand for the 3 letters that I want. We have the exclamation and the star, which stand for the 2 symbols that I want, and we have the how many numbers would you like, and we have the 221, which stand for the numbers. So this is the easy level. So I if you actually summing this one now, so definitely you are going to have a success. You can see complete. You already have a successful message. So which means it is fine. You already solved the problem.